Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How you doing? I hope you're doing good. Thank you so much for listening. Today on the line we have a very cool cat I've had the pleasure of bumping into a few times in my life. His band just played over the weekend in Kona. They're hitting Lahaina this coming Saturday. You may remember them from their early 90s hits like Little Miss Can't Be Wrong or Two Princes, to name a couple big ones. Perhaps you were also there in the mud to see them do Woodstock 94. Or maybe you're thinking about going this Saturday. Whatever the case is, it's a 20th anniversary celebration for these guys, and I'm glad to be a part of it and bring it to you. It's a pleasure to welcome Spin Doctors frontman Chris Barron. Aloha and mahalo, brother Chris.
Aloha.
Thanks for taking a couple minutes for us. We appreciate it.
What an awesome intro.
Thanks.
I forgot about all that stuff.
Well, I'm here to...
I've had such a cool life, man.
Jog your memory. You certainly have.
Brother Dave, how are you, man?
I am good, thank you.
Man, when you say it, my curriculum vitae sounds awesome.
Thanks. You've done a lot of cool stuff. And,
I know. I want to have my life.
Well, luckily you do, my brother, and we get to share in a moment of it, at least, with you. So you guys started off things. You're doing two shows. Your last one was this past weekend on the Big Island, then you're moving over to Maui. How's the visit been so far?
Oh, it's been amazing. I live on an island myself. It's called Manhattan. It's a small island off the coast of America. And the pace here is pretty different.
So you're still living right in Manhattan, so you're used to that kind of vibration 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, actually, because I was actually born on Oahu.
And what's the story with that? Pop in the Navy?
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy. So, I was just a baby. But I've been back here a number of times because I went to elementary school in Australia. So we were always sort of going back and forth, and we would stop in Hawaii. And then I spent like my entire adult life in Manhattan, and I definitely put the word adult in quote fingers. But I've spent most of my life on islands, and they all kind of have a vibe.
Well, you've gotten back here a few times. Where have you gone other than the Big Island? I'm assuming you've gone to Oahu. Where else?
Yeah, mostly the Big Island, Oahu, and Maui, which is where I am right now. Are you on Maui?
We're in Honolulu.
You're in Honolulu.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Honolulu. That's where I was born.
So you were born here, didn't spend much time here, though? How long were you here?
I was here, I was there, for like 2 years or something like that, just when I was a baby.
Wow, first 2 years of your life.
Yep. Yeah, man. I guess, I think it's too great an honor to call myself Kama'aina, but I guess technically I am.
And were you here right around the same time that young Barack Obama was also in the hood, so to speak?
I don't know. I think he's a little older than I am. But I guess neither of us are Americans, right?
He's, listen to my boy.
Zing!
You just turned, or he just turned, rather, 50. I gotta believe you're about 40, 45?
I am 43.
Okay, yes.
But thanks for thinking I'm older than I am.
Well, it's only a testament to the incredible activity you've had in your life,
Right.
Young Chris. So then you probably were here, getting back to Barry, as he was called in his Honolulu days.
Yeah.
You guys had a little bit of overlap, and then your other visits. Have you guys ever gotten to gig in Honolulu?
Yeah, we played Honolulu and Maui in the late 20th century, as it were, back in the 90s.
And haven't been back since. And then this visit, how was that show over there? Give me some highlights.
Oh, it was fantastic. Mick Fleetwood.
Yep, he was gigging there.
Was hanging out. He was, it's a Mai Tai festival, so he was judging the Mai Tais and
you were drinking them
and judging them well, I might add. Yeah, there was some pretty heavy Mai Tai action going on, and then he hung out and sat in with us. So that was a huge thrill. Mick Fleetwood, of course, is the drummer of
Fleetwood Mac,
the group Fleetwood Mac, and that was really, really intense having him sit in. I mean, he's an all-time hero of all of ours, and he's just an extremely amusing guy with this awesome, slightly wizened English rocker, and he says awesome stuff. Fell into step with him at the first night. They were sort of throwing a dinner for all of us, and he was speaking to this guy who's going to be writing a biography for him, and he was saying, I just fell in the middle of the conversation, but he's saying that this guy is just meeting him, and he's saying, I look forward to our liaise. I was like, wow, what a wreck on tour. I was like, I'm stealing that. I look forward to our liaise. It reminds me of my Uncle Lenny, who owned a pretty famous jazz club from 1952 to 1973. Lenny's on the Turnpike in Marblehead. Your jazz aficionados will know about this place. My Uncle Lenny's got a million of them, and his parting shot is always, I have delighted you enough. But every time I run into Mick now, I've been saying, we liaise again.
Is he still, are you running into him over on Maui now?
No, he's shooting a commercial for his new restaurant. He's got a
Fleetwood's on Front Street.
Yeah. So he's shooting a commercial for that. But I think we will golf on Friday.
That's really cool. He's a great guy. We're lucky to have him part of the community.
He really is. What a cool guy. When I ran into him as we were leaving Kona, and I said, "Did anybody ever tell you have a royal bearing?" And he goes, "Must be the French blood."
He's a really good. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got a fun wit. He's a good storyteller. He did my 5-year anniversary party. I've been out here for 9 years.
Wow, congratulations! Good move.
Yeah, and he did that for me here in Honolulu. So he's just. I just had him on the show earlier this year. He's a good guy. Gives whenever there's a cause. He's there. He's on site, and that's awesome that he was sitting in with you. I dig that, man.
Oh man, yeah, it was really really cool. We did. We didn't really know it was going to happen, and it all sort of came together last minute, and so we didn't have a Fleetwood Mac tune together to do. So we it was interesting because there's a bit of a parallel. The Spin Doctors back in the early days when we started out, really our initial objective was to make a living playing music. I mean, we all thought it would be nice to have our tunes on the radio and be rich and famous or what have you, but really our objective was much more modest, and it was to make a living as musicians. And to make a living in New York, all the clubs that really paid when we were starting out were blues clubs. So you really had to be like a blues band to play these places. And we're all pretty, reverent of the blues and grew up listening to it. And, in my case, it was the music that initially made me want to play music. So we kind of had to just be a blues band to play a lot of these places in New York. So we would go on and we wrote a bunch of original blues tunes, which is something that I'd been doing independently of this professional necessity. Mm-hmm. And then we would the first set we would play mostly blues stuff, and the second set we would play some Spin Doctors tunes and some blues stuff, and then the third and fourth set we would just freak, and it was fine because by that time everybody was lubricated enough that it didn't really matter what we were doing, as long as there's some bluesy riffs in there. And so as Fleetwood Mac started out as a blues band as well. So when it was sort of discussed that what we were going to do, we were like, well, why don't we do a blues? Because we started out as a blues band just like Fleetwood Mac. So we did one of our original blues, a really deep Spin Doctors cut called Scotch and Water Blues, and then we played Stop Break It Down, which is a Robert Johnson tune that was on a Stones record. It was on Exile on Main Street, and it was great, man. That guy can really play a shuffle.
Yeah, man, taking it all the way back to Robert Johnson. I like
Yeah, right, exactly. Actually, it's pretty cool. Robert Johnson to Fleetwood Mac to Spin Doctors.
Right in the natural lineage.
It was neat. And then, and afterwards, he was cool. He got on the microphone, and he got on Eric, our guitar player's mic, and just was like, ladies and gentlemen, these guys are survivors, something I know about, and it's a truly great band, great musicians, and, please give it up for the Spin Doctors. It was pretty neat.
That's dope. Well, maybe he'll join you at the. He lives right up the street from where you're gigging.
Yeah, we're hoping he's going to sit in.
That's cool. There's a lot to see over there.
Oh yeah, really.
You got to do the. You've been to the road to Hana? You done that?
No, I've never done that, and we were definitely this visit we're gonna make it happen because that's what everybody says. You just got to do it.
Yeah, that thing's a lot of fun. There is so much to be done over there. Now, on this particular outing that you guys have, Chris, are you doing the? I had read you're going to be getting the Pocket Full of Kryptonite album in its entirety, sort of thing. Are you guys doing that out here or no?
We're doing that in October. I thought it would be cool to play the album maybe in Maui because it might be. Hopefully we'll get back to Hawaii during that tour, but I just think it would be cool just to play the record. So we didn't. That's not what we did in
Kona.
In Kona, but we there's definitely a chance we'll do it in Maui. I guess we should say, for the listeners that it's the 20th anniversary of Pocket Full of Kryptonite, the Spin Doctors' first record, the one that had Little Miss Can't Be Wrong on it and Two Princes and we're releasing on August 30th, we're releasing a 20th anniversary edition of the record that's got, a lot of the demos and stuff that we made for the record and some, previously unreleased live stuff. And, it's actually pretty cool. Rewritten liner notes by the great rock journalist Cree McCree. And it's, it's pretty exciting. It's, cool. It's like 20 years. It's amazing, to be in a band that made a record that anybody, cares about 20 years later, especially, how disposable the
music
entertainment industry can be, so it's pretty gratifying. But it's, so and then in October, over on the mainland, we're going to be doing Pocket Full of Kryptonite live in its entirety in order, but I think it would be cool to do it on Saturday as well.
I hope you bust that out.
I'm not sure why we wouldn't do that.
Well, it would be nice. It would give a little difference between the two shows that you do here. And certainly thinking about, just for a moment, the record, I wonder if there's going to be anything on that in terms of your bonuses that might include when I first got to meet you, when you were coming to my college station and my program director, Cindy Mooney at WERS, was the biggest Spin Doctors fan, and you guys would come and jam live in Studio C. Is any of that going to make it on the record?
No, I mean, I don't know where that stuff is.
Remember those times, dude?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did some crazy acoustic stuff. Actually, the photo, I don't know if you know this, but the photo on the inside of the original Pocket Full of Kryptonite that's
from
the background for the lyrics was actually taken was taken at that studio.
Yeah, no, I do remember that.
Yeah, and if you look at me in that picture, it really looks like I'm making like a wisecrack, and that wisecrack is directed at Cindy.
Cindy's the best, huh? I really dig her.
No, she's great.
She is super cool.
She's really great. She ended up working for us.
Yeah. I remember. It's been a long time since then. I mean, I can't even believe that it's been so long, but I remember when these guys, the Spin Doctors would come, and they would, Cindy she couldn't get enough of them. I remember one time in the middle of the night, you guys came and did this thing. It was like 2, 3 in the morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like after a show at the Paradise or something. It's really hard to remember, but I do recall it was really, really late, and I remember you guys got food catered from Division 16.
Oh, really? That's funny. Yeah, that might be the night of that picture, because I know we were all really tired.
Yeah, that probably
doing that. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe we were like on our way out of town or something, and it was like the only time we could do it.
It was good stuff on the other side of the country too. And when you think of that same sort of era in your life, a couple years after that, it was I guess it was August. It was this month of 1994, and I was working for CBS Radio in Boston back then, and we were helping to anchor Woodstock 94 and for the Westwood One big nationwide broadcast. And there you were on the stage, and as I recall, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I think it was an afternoon show.
Yep, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people. Take me back there and just paint the picture. What was it like? What are some memories?
You know, it was funny. I had on, I think I had like white pants and like a white T-shirt and a white jacket and white sneakers, and it was like so much mud everywhere. And we couldn't stick around because we had like another gig or something. So we some of the guys helicoptered out, and some of us got on a bus. But I managed to get out of there without a single speck of mud on me. It was amazing. One of the things I remember. But we went on right after Traffic, which was intense, and then 2 acts before Bob Dylan. So I got to sit on the side of the stage, like maybe a yo-yo and a half's length away from Bob Dylan while he played. And that was, that I think is the thing that stands out the most. I was watching Bob Dylan, and he was doing, the set was like acoustic but with a band, and I was mind blown because I was sort of just like at his knee. Not at his knee. I mean, I was, several feet away from him, but really, really close. And I was watching him work, I was watching him like as a performer. I was sort of watching him because I was that close. And his performance was so small. Like I went on and I was terrified for one thing. It was such a huge audience. And I just made my performance as gigantic as I possibly could, because I was, it was like the logic that I use. I'm just a really big crowd. I'm just going to play it really big so that the people in the back, kind of can get a sense of what I'm doing.
Sure.
And Bob did exactly the opposite. He made it really small and really subtle. And he just shut this 250,000 person crowd right up. They were just like listening to every single syllable that he sang, and reacting to every little movement of his shoulder, and that made a huge impression on me.
He did the less is more in front of that huge crowd.
Yeah, and won. It was amazing.
That was a great night. I actually had made the choice to do Santana, so I was on the opposite stage when all this was happening. But I can remember the afternoon stuff, what you were, your set. I remember the Traffic, the Allman Brothers. But by the early evening, I wanted to see Santana so bad.
I can't believe you. I bet he was amazing.
You know what I mean? It was a hard choice. It was awful. I mean, I feel terrible now because I've seen him so many times, and I've still only seen Bobby D a handful of times compared to that. But
oh yeah, he's really cool live.
And I've seen him live plenty too. But just the way you were describing it, I can imagine that would have been a real highlight. And all these years later, I guess as a way to wrap it up with you've probably learned a lot of lessons in the history that you've had. You pointed out the 20-year anniversary thing. So within that time period, it's just a capsule of knowledge, good things, bad things, tough lessons, things I'm sure you're grateful that you picked up. Are there things from your musical journey that come to mind as I mentioned that you could share with us, stuff you've picked up or realizations about maybe how to live your life or find true happiness?
That's a great question. I think the first thing that jumps out at me is, 20 years down the line, and it's more than 20 years really, because I started playing music. I started taking guitar lessons when I was 9 years old, and started writing songs when I was 13 or 14, and was in
roam, begging on the streets, playing guitar, for like spare change, and doing that in New York City. And then, I've just done a lot of stuff, and I've been playing music for a long time now. And it's been, my profession and my hobby. And I think that, I was interested in a lot of things at the time I was getting into music, and music ended up being, I kept falling back into music, which was, something that I really loved and maybe was meant to be doing. And I think that the experience of doing something on a high level is something that not everybody gets to experience. And to start doing something, hopefully when you're young, but maybe even not when you're young, and to just stick with it for a very long time, and to get better and better at it, and to be humbly devoted to it, and to be willing to get your butt kicked because you care about it, and you're doing it wrong, and that's a hard lesson, or that you really want to do it, and the circumstances that you're going to have to do it in require sacrifices, like sitting in a van for a couple of years, so that you can play music for an hour or two every night, or it's 20 years down the road, being in my 40s and still doing this, and feeling like I know something about it. That's a great thing, I would, anybody who wants to really devote some time to something. It doesn't have to be music. My grandfather took up photography, when he retired in his 50s, and, got really good at it. Won a few, amateur awards, and, had his stuff shown a little bit, that kind of thing. It's, I think that the experience of doing something really well and having worked really hard at something is an extremely valuable one, and I'm just glad that I don't think I did it. I don't think I stuck with music out of any kind of wisdom. It was probably more hard-headed stupidity that I stuck with it. But I'm glad that I have, and I'm more and more. I've always been, really aware that my profession is one that you get to do because people want to hear you do what you do. My profession has been something that I've worked very hard on, but it's also to some extent been bestowed on me by the people who enjoy my music and continue to enjoy it, and continue to, buy a ticket to a concert, or less and less buy your actual music, but I'm still doing this because people want me to, and I'm very, very grateful to everybody who has made my awesome, fun life where I do what I love for a living possible.
That's cool, man. Lessons in perseverance and the satisfaction of the accumulated talents of your craft. I can. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, I wish I'd said that, because that was a lot more succinct and articulate than what I said. But
well, then we wouldn't have a nice big soundbite for the radio. So. We're working together. Hey, man, I high five you. I thank you for taking a couple minutes for me.
Yeah, man, mahalo.
And you're right back at you, dude. I hope that the rest of your trip goes satisfactorily. You be safe. And
thanks, man. Will you be making it over to the show here?
I don't think that I'll be able to do it on Saturday.
Next time, Oahu.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'd love to work with Jason and try to bring you guys here. We have a nice little 75-seat performance space. It's kind of like our own little Austin City Limits, so it's not a big money maker, but it's a great way to get visibility and do a cool gig.
Yeah, that'd be great, man.
I high five you, give you a big hug.
Big five, man.
You be safe over there, Brother Chris.
All right, you take care, man.
Aloha.
Bye. Aloha.